Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Shoe Service Institute of America San Diego Convention. My name is Blaise Knobel. I'm president of Shoe Systems Plus Incorporated. Shoe Systems Plus, as many of you may know, we are the leader in the industry for shoe repair equipment, service, and parts. What I'd like to do today is touch upon some of the more important things on your machines, so hopefully you can go home with the education to be able to improve your machine's performance. What I'm going to do is I'll save a lot of the questions till the end, but I'd like to start off with what I think are some of the most important things for you to learn about maintaining your equipment. We're going to start over with finishers, because there's no shop that can be in business without a finisher today. It's probably the most important machine in your shop. Biggest complaint we get on finishers all the time is suction. Everybody says, why has my machine got no suction? You have to think about the principle of how you get suction. A fan is going to suck in air. It's going to blow air into a dust bag. It can be a tube like this. It could be a large bag, but everything has a filter bag. As the air is blowing the dirt into these bags, the dirt is going to remain inside and the air has to flow through. People don't realize when it's nice and new, this bag can breathe. When you get it clogged with dirt inside and dirty, it gets all clogged up and it can no longer breathe. Just like a water hose, if you had a screen in it and it was clogged, your water is going to trickle. You don't see air, so you don't see the effect, but this is what's happening. Air can't pass through the bag, so therefore your machine's got no suction. It's like pushing it into a balloon. Only you're going to take so much air and that's it, no more intake. So it's very, very important to maintain the bags. Now, your bags, if they're in good shape, they can be taken off the machine, they can be washed and cleaned and put back on. I guarantee that your suction will double to triple once you clean a bag. If the bag is got rips or tears or is in need of repair, and replace it. Honestly, this should be done every year. It's something that a lot of machinery installers never told their original owners that they should be maintaining these bags. The most important thing you can do. I do have many customers that will buy a second bag so that once a year they can rotate the bag and then just at their convenience go to the laundromat, wash, clean it, put it back on the shelf and have it for when they feel the suction's diminished that they just rotate it over. It's a quick process. But cleaning your bag is probably the most important thing you can do for yourself and your shop, because also when you have poor suction, you're breathing in a lot of dirt. It is a health hazard. So it's like I said, you want to live a little bit longer, clean your machines. Now next to the dust bag is most sanding systems. Most belt sanders run with what they call a tracking wheel, and a contact wheel in front and a tracking mechanism in the back. This type of wheel would be used on Suttons, Autosolers, most U.S. machines. European ones are all similar. You can see this looks a little different because this is a new style wheel. Today, everything is manufactured, and most replacement wheels are going to aluminum or rubber. It's a far superior wheel from the old wooden felt ones that look like this. If your wheel looks like this, it needs to be changed. What happens in felt wheels, number one, if you go away for an extended period of time and leave your sanding belt tension on, people don't realize the constant pressure on one side will flatten it. Most guys that put machines in storage and you go buy a used machine, first thing this wheel is going to be bouncy because it's sitting there 6 months, a year, 5 years. It has squished in one side of the felt, so the wheel's no longer round. So again, when you start to have a lot of bouncing and stuff on it, it's because the wheels are out of round. Also, a lot of times people don't realize the edges of the wheel when you try to cut a lot of your corners. They're all rounded out, they're not square, so it makes it hard to get a nice sharp corner. Another problem in the older style wooden felt wheels were that they had attached with hubs with screws. A lot of Suttons, and sometimes you can hear noise, and maybe you can listen to the noise on the phone, I know right away. These screws have become loose, and this hub starts wobbling back and forth. And that's where a lot of noise is coming from. By going to new aluminum wheels, there is no hub screwed in. It's a much more secure wheel, so it eliminates a lot of the problems that we had in the past wheels. Yes?
Could you change the belt?
Excuse me?
Could I change the belt on the old wooden wheel?
No. On these wheels, they're factory done. There is no belt repair kits for these. I've seen many people who try to resurface them. I've seen them put leather, other things on top. You know, the biggest problem though when resurfacing it is this is just like, you know, this is a wheel. It has to be perfectly round. If your wheel isn't round to begin with and you resurface it, you're not going to be round when you get done. The only real way of doing that is actually putting it on a lathe and truing the wheel up first before you put another piece of material on it. But again, with the new style wheels, I don't even recommend trying to change them. Put a new wheel on and you're good for your next 10, 20 years. Okay, now I'm going to go into tracking systems.
Those new wheels, are they available for power units as well as landers machines?
Not on the power units yet. The power units are still the wooden felt. All our new Supreme machines made this way. Most of your European equipment all is coming with aluminum wheels today. Power is still using the wooden felt style wheels. I don't know of a change on that yet.
Good.
Okay. Now with your tracking systems, this is a Sutton style tracking system, which is a very popular machine and most people have them. A lot of times when they have problems with the machine running and the belts moving and going side to side and stuff like that, it's either from a bad contact wheel, 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time it could be in the contact wheel. Your old wheels, this was a metal wheel, metal drum. When these things are new, there is a certain arc right there. That's why when you pitch set, that's what makes the belt move forward and back. Now, when these things are really pretty simple, when it goes in the machine, there's only one bolt here. This bolts it to the frame of the machine and everything is supported in there. Now, when you're going to replace these, the important part is right between here and here. This is where people don't realize it. You want to get your distance between here and here level. When this is level and your tracking arm, there's two separate types of tracking arms. You have a T-handle. Most of you have this long ones with swivel joints, which would replace the handle like this. But this way, the tracking arm is going to pitch this wheel in, it's going to pitch the wheel out. But it's important that you start off level. In the tracking arms, this is also a very common part that these things get replaced here. They usually wear out and the knuckle will get no good. Now, when somebody's putting one on, a common mistake is they thread this thing all the way in. You take the tie rod end and then screw it on there. Now, what you should be doing is screwing this on about 8 to 10 times. And the reason you're doing 8 to 10 times is because I'm taking my threaded area into the center of this. If you screw it on all the way and you go to track it, you're going to bottom out. If you get too close to the end, you're going to turn it out and it's going to disconnect. So the trick is to get it about 8 to 10 turns so you have movement forward and back for it to be able to track properly. On a lot of these, I do have breakdown sheets. If you have problems with these, here's a sheet that shows all the components. You know, for the idler mechanisms on the Sutton, if you need parts, it'll help you identify it. It'll help you be able to see how it's supposed to go together, because most people are not that familiar with them. But we have a lot of this stuff available in the office. If you ever call us at the shop and you need help, we're there all the time. And like I said, we can fax or email over information to you, so we can generally help most service calls over the phone, and we have like a 98% rate that we get everything fixed. Also, part of the tracking system, there's a tension spring. That's what's keeping the tension on your arm back when you release it. So occasionally they can go. The other end of this spring has got an adjustable bolt, so that if the tension seems a little bit light, you can adjust the bolt in and get a little bit more. But if you don't have enough pressure, it's as simple as changing a spring. Do we have any questions so far on that part? Okay. Now, the other side, we have master finishers and a lot of power finishers. This is a master finisher, which is a direct drive system contact wheel. There are a lot of master finishers out there. We rebuild a bunch of them. If you own a master finisher, you want to know anything about it, go to YouTube, go to my website, just type in master finisher. We've done a complete photo of the machine being stripped down and rebuilt step by step, and we took the process and put some notes in there about, you know, just how to change a trimmer motor, how to change a blower motor, how to change the blocks. But it's very, very informative, and you can find it on the YouTube, just at Master Finisher, or you can find it on a link on our website in our tips area. Now, on the master finisher, this would be a wooden felt contact wheel. Again, the most common part that we have on these machines we sell is one of these wheels. You could have a wide wheel, a 3-inch, or a narrow wheel. These wheels are all got 3 bolts on the outside. The wheel is pressed on. If you're going to change one, pre-drill the screws before you try to put them in there so they go in there nice and tight. And that's all it is sliding one off. They are tight fit, so you have to bang them on a little bit when you're ready. The rest of the machine is made up by blocks. The top block bolts right up to the machine. Now, if you have a master finisher, a lot of the early ones they made, this is a serious problem because AutoSolar made the mistake of the first ones of welding these in the machine. And if you've got them welded, they've got to get cut out. You have to tap and thread bolts into it to be able to put this in. It has to be done very precisely. You know, again, in the northeast area, we go on the road, we do this, but it requires usually a plasma cutter, a die grinder, or welder to be able to do it. But it's really important to replace this one when this one connects to the next one. And when the posts in here get worn, you'll start to get wobble. You'll wobble in here, everything else wobbles. And that's what it is 3 posts mount to the other. So when you get on your machine, you want to grab your wheel, and you want to check back and forth with wobble in these blocks. Each one is replaceable. And like I say, and when you tighten them up, it'll tighten the wheel up, and again, you'll have less tracking problems and everything else. Any questions on that? No, rolling right along.
Please, on the blocks on the master finisher, keep them oiled, because a lot of times that'll put you tip when you do your adjustments to standard paper. You need to be lubricated.
Very good point, because when we do rebuild these, most master finishers, nobody takes the time to maintain them or lubricate them. Because these blocks are steel on steel, and they have very, very little movement in them, eventually it'll all rust up. If you take it apart, you'll see all kinds of brown rust in here. Eventually they'll get so hard that it'll be very difficult just to take apart. So periodically it's really good to take them apart, lubricate them, put them back together so everything's nice and smooth.
And you know your spring tension will go down a lot easier.
Also, when you're running your master finishers, this arm here hooks up the spring. You'll see that on the inside. When you see this thing going up and down and jumping around and vibrating a lot, it's telling you have problems. The reason that this thing is vibrating up and down like this is because the wheel is usually out of round. Usually you need a new contact wheel. But what happens when you have a wheel that's not perfectly round, and this is a spring-loaded system, what's going to happen is the wheel is going to draw in and out because it's lopsided. And when it goes in and out, the arm goes up and down. And the more that thing vibrates up and down, the more you know something has to be repaired. Any other questions? Okay, trimmers. On most of your American trimmers, you had AutoSolar and Sutton, and I'm sure everybody in here is aware that everybody's gone these days. AutoSolar, Sutton, Landis are all out of business for more than 20 years. So we're just left here to pick up the pieces. But on the trimmers, we get a lot of calls for trimmer problems, and most people can't identify the difference between the 2 trimmers that we have on, out in the field. This is a Sutton style trimmer. It doesn't have any springs in it, but these are the best trimmers to have today. They're a very, very good trimmer. All the new Supreme equipment are using the same parts in these trimmers, so we're able to give you replacement parts. Sometimes we even have loaners for them if you want to send it in and have us rebuilt it. They are a bit expensive to repair. An average repair on one of these can run $800 to $1,000. Some of these parts, like this feather edger, is about a $250 part. Some inner components are expensive. But again, we have all the parts and we can do them all in-house. The other style of trimmer you have, which is a lot more problem, is the AutoSolar trimmer. This is spring loaded inside, very easy to take apart. But the problem is there's no parts available anymore. The feather edges on these are different than this, and because the company's out of business, nobody's manufacturing it. Nobody's manufacturing the shafts. So So I can put a new set of bearings in here. That's about all I can do. I can never repair these things so they're 100% quiet the way they should be new, because the rest of the parts are just not available. Any questions on them? Yes?
Were those two interchanged? Can you replace?
Most of the time, no, because manufacturers made different cylinder sizes. Now, Sutton was used pretty much the same cylinder in everything, which means this cylinder will fit a 750, a 1200, 1250, 2000, that's fine. Autosolar, on the other hand, went all different size tubes for different machines. I have some that are much longer, some that are, so it makes it really impossible to take it out unless you get lucky. In this particular case, they're pretty close. You know, and then you may have other things like this doesn't have your trimmer sharpener will go on that end. So I put this one in and you lose the trimmer sharpener. You might get it into work, but never going to be 100% the way it should be.
There are some lucky people that do have the Sutton was in the Autosolar master finisher. So we do have some of that.
Well, you know, when Autosolar started out, they were putting their own trimmers in there. And then in the 90s, Sutton Landis came and bought Autosolar out. So when they were a combined company, they weren't going to make two trimmers, and a lot of what Autosolar did is they discontinued their trimmer, and the later Autosolars have the Sutton trimmers in it when they were one company. That's, you know, but like I say, it's the differences between the two. Yes?
Two questions. First, the cost of the replacement pad.
Cost of replacement pad is like 2 and change. I think they're about
For the set.
for each one.
Okay.
Remember, a lot, you know, only powers have double. A lot of swing arm presses only use one pad.
Yeah.
You know, but they're about 2 and change a pad. They're good for like 20 years, so it costs you $10 a year to use. Pennies a day.
The second question I have, the Tiptronic touch.
Yes. On the power presses, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, the power presses are the ones you usually see with the double pads. Most of them were power presses. Again, with power presses, they had a lot of touch tone control panels on them, which there are usually a lot of problems with. They're very difficult to get replaced. But as we do on the Autosolar, I do the exact same thing for a power press. The only thing is I don't have a kit for it. It's kind of a custom build. People will send us power presses. We make brand new faces where the panel is. You got to throw that panel away. We make a brand new face. We wind up putting one or two pressure gauges. We put 2 handles and make, again, a lever for each side. Forget the timer, forget all the bells and whistles. We just make it work. Perfect. You know?
Yep.
And we get rid of all the expensive parts because those control panels can run you over $1,000 if you can even find one.
There's no electric no more that.
But
Perfect.
the good news for guys like you is because I do rip down a lot of power presses and rebuild them, I got some used control panels around. We send them out with a 30-day guarantee. If they work, great. If they don't, send them back. You know, but we do. You know, some of these parts we do save some of the odd parts that are available.
A totally replaced panel that you built. What's the cost on that?
Again, I don't ever sell new panels because they're so hard to get. There isn't one in stock here.
Are you talking about the conversion kit?
Yeah.
You're talking about the conversion, the converter.
Oh, if I convert
The one that works.
If you send your power press to me, it's probably in the neighborhood of about $1,000 to do the full conversion. And considering that's over a $10,000 machine, it's a good investment because you will have no troubles with it. We've done this many, many times. And it's like, it just simplifies everything. And again, we're putting U.S. components in there, you know, so you don't have a problem getting parts.
Yep. Thanks.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Power presses. Mount cakes on a lot of machines, and people may not realize, but replacement rubber pads are available. So if you want to get a new pad, I've heard a lot of people complain sometimes that their sandpaper doesn't fit the pads properly. I have 2 different ones. This is a European pad. You can see it's much thinner. So sometimes maybe your paper fits a little better. This is a U.S. one. So we have 2 different styles. So this is the one I usually like the best, is the thinner one. But they're both available. Okay. 5-in-1s. 5-in-1s are always confusing because everybody calls in and want blades. blades, and it's very important to identify which 5-in-1 you have. They all look alike, but there are big differences. We have made up a couple sheets here, and you can find this on my website, but this would show you how to replace the blades on the 5-in-1. But it's really pretty easy. The most important thing to remember, if you're going to take a blade off the 5-in-1, they come off in the same direction as they cut. So in other words, you know, the bottom shaft, the top shaft is running clockwise. You're going to take a punch and hit it in a clockwise rotation to loosen that one. Your bottom one goes counterclockwise. You want to hit it in a counterclockwise rotation to loosen it. You'll find, you know, those instructions right here, also on the website. Then we get into blades. We also have here's several different blades. Champion is different from a Landis, which is different from a Rodi, which is different from a Besser, and you know, then there's a few other older harness cutting machines, 3-in-1s, 1-in-1s. So we have this sheet up. You can see some of the differences. Most of the cutters, when you have a U.S. cutter, it usually has one hole in the side for the punch. A lot of the Europeans have double holes in them because they use a tool to remove it. But we've given you this as a guideline to help be able to select the right blade, either that or talk to us on the phone. We can usually have a set of questions that we can figure it out, and you know, 95% of the time we're right. It's in a while we don't get right. But that would be for changing your 5-in-1.
Question on the 5-in-1. I
Yes.
have an apprentice, and he asked me, what are the 5 functions?
What are the 5 functions?
The cutter, the skiver, and the press.
Again, I got it on my website. I'm going to make you go find it.
Website, go to the website, it'll say all 5 functions for it.
Yeah, remember,
Okay, I was trying to tell him.
years ago when they made the 5-in-1, shoe repairing was a little bit different. A lot of guys would buy heavy soles, and they would skive the edges of the soles to thin it down on the edges, give you more meat in the center. So skiving a sole was one step. Trimming a heel was one step. Trimming a sole was one step. What do? They did 3 things, but they've been called 5-in-1s. This is their creation.
Well pressed.
Yeah. But trimming soles, trimming heels, you know, skiving soles, well press, and I have it written down somewhere. It might even be in my catalog. But, it does 3 things for all purposes, okay? On your 5-in-1s is a blade, here's a guard, your spring in the back. You want to check the guards. If you're replacing the blade, if these guards are worn on the inside, you can damage your blade just by putting it onto an old guard. So you want to make sure you don't have any burrs or it's chewed up on the guard before you attach the blade to it. The bottom roller sits down here. On any of these, you must remove the bottom one before you remove the blade. Your blade may be dull and no longer sitting in the gap. They should be overlapping. So you might be able to unscrew without it, but the new blade won't go on if it's not put on before the support roll goes on last. Rollers. I'm going to pass some of these around. Feel the teeth on the rollers. This is what pulls your work through your 5-in-1. This is your top. This is a top roller. Most of the time, you're going to have them very, very worn out. Until you see a new part, you'll feel the difference to realize how worn out it is. But again, if it's going to pull right, it's going to make it a little easier to come through, along with a sharp blade. 5-in-1 sky blades. You know, we usually just replace them and sharpen these. If you sharpen them by hand, it's really hard to get them just right. Originally, they would be a hollow grind that would lift the work up and move it away. But it's just like cutting your face. You know, if you don't have a sharp razor, you're going to make a mess out of your face. If you don't have a sharp sky blade, you're just doing a lot of abuse to the machine because you're struggling, you're pushing it, you're putting all kinds of extra pressure on handles and parts and other things that'll eventually break. Keep your blade sharp.
Question about the 5-in-1 skyver. Is it very difficult to get it tuned right where it's different?
If all your parts and everything okay, it shouldn't be a problem. A lot of times, the rack that holds the sky blade in the back, it shouldn't be wobbling around. set of screws. You want to make sure they're tight and this thing doesn't have movement on it. There's a fork that this thing sits into. The blade on this side should be a little bit lower than the fork to keep the leather from getting ripped up in there. But tightening up that whole mechanism is important. For getting your different adjustments for how thick you want that guide on it. Some guys want it thin, some guys want it a little bit, everybody's a little different. But there are two bolts in the back of this thing that have like a T nut on it. But when you loosen and turn it, those things are responsible for raising and lowering one side of this. And that's where you're going to adjust to be able to get what's just right. And if everything's tight and the blade's sharp, it should stay consistent sole after sole.
But generally, your right-hand side, you're going to have that adjusted just below the fork, the blade, but touching the fork, so you're up against it. And once you set that one on the left-hand side, that's your thickness. It's up or down, thin or thick. That's your best way to do it.
Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, I came in a little late. So if you purchase the parts from you, then online do you have the instructions that let's say you're giving me the instructions now?
We have some general,
or can you call and somebody will walk you through the process of the adjustment that you need to make with the parts that you're purchasing?
Online, we have some of the general stuff there for you, how to change the blade. With any other kind of difficult questions or any kind of question, always call. Larry rebuilds all of our machinery in the shop there, plus does a lot of delivery, you know. So either me or Larry or AJ, my son, there are people there who can tell you what to do. Today, you know, it's a lot easier than it was 20 years ago. I mean, between emails and picture texts and everything else, I have many people sending pictures to my phone all the time. And there's no reason a problem, you know. My wife used to get mad at me, like, what are you getting them? Who's calling you now? I'm like, this is, you know. But yes, you can call us and we'll talk you through it. If you don't have the right information, we'll get it to you.
Do you ever go off to different shops?
Where are you located?
San Francisco Bay Area.
We're out of New York, so we do service the Northeast very strongly, but I'm not capable of doing the same thing on the West Coast. We can ship machines, we can give service unless it was a very large order that, you know, could warrant the expenses of sending somebody out there.
Then I'll come out and visit you.
For the right price, we'll do anything. He's been flown down to the Cayman Islands to fix machines before, so it won't be.
Gotta go somewhere, that was
right. But you know, when you consider the cost of replacing machines, sometimes even a couple $1,000 on a service call is still the lesser of two evils here. So anyway,
thank you.
Also a lot of people don't have original manuals. In the shop, we have taken the time to scan a lot of manuals, correct them, make them better and original. And if you don't have the complete manual on your machine, you can call us and we can get you a master finisher, a singer, a champion 77, a stitcher, or whatever else. So it gives you good general information about your machine. You should always have an original manual for all your machines, because we take a lot of orders where people are asking for the doohickey that connects to the whatchamacallit, and it's hard to understand just exactly what they want. But this way, if you have a book, I got a book, I say go to this page. Now we're talking the same language. I can understand you, you can understand me, I can help you better. I mean, that's really all it's about. Is, before you call it, try to get a manual, do something so that we can communicate and understand. Because understanding is very, very important. But we're very good at that. Like I say, Monday through Friday we're available. We're in New York, so we close at 4:30 Eastern time. But we can help you with whatever your trouble is. All right, now I went through the main stuff. Parts I don't like to talk about too much of stitchers and McKays. Landed stitchers becoming a very serious problem today. There is nothing manufactured to replace it in the world, so there is no replacement. There's very few people that are making any parts for the things anymore. Finding parts is getting harder and harder. Sutton Landis, in Orstow went out of business 20 years ago. When they went out of business, they liquidated a lot of the shelves to several people, in the U.S. and Canada. A lot of these people sat on these parts for 20 years, and now we're beginning to see the lot of parts are going, and they have to start replacing them. This has become a problem. There's no blueprints, no original parts. I mean, simple things, like, here's an example of parts. A presser foot, a very important part. We sell quite a few presser feet. I'm going to pass these around, but this one here, I got from, I'm going to leave company nameless, I got from one company. This is all rounded here. The bottom of the foot, which should be flat, is rounded and not level. The blade, you're never going to get the stitch to line up in the cut. And it's still, it's a $100 part. I found one guy had some of these left. This is perfect. You can see how well it's cut, how straight, how nice it is. It's a good foot. Oh, price of the 20. Because the guy that has it knows he's hoarding them. And if you want, you can take these and pass them around. You can kind of see the difference between good and bad parts. And these are the little things that you go and order a part. We have experience. I know what works and what doesn't work. Many people are going to get parts and assume, you expect them that they're new, they're going to go in, they're going to make the machine work, and it's bigger problems than you started with. Because you have no idea that the part you're putting in there is not good. And a lot of my competitors who are part suppliers, they don't rebuild machines. That's a serious problem. They get parts, they put them on the shelf, and they sell them to you. But nobody's tested them. I'm the only one that goes and tests the parts and put them in the machine and can locate a part that's no good and say, we're not going to sell that part just because it's only going to get you in trouble. So, like I said, appreciate it if you call us. We'll give you honesty and do the best we can to advise you. A lot of Landis parts today, we are selling some good used parts on certain things. The shuttles they make today are crap. I'd rather sell you a good original used Landis shuttle, than the new ones for less than half the price of it. Because like I say, the tensions on them are no good. They're just not manufactured right because nobody's ever going to produce them. This is a problem that's going to get worse and worse. I don't know what the future's going to be. Get a press, you need one. So anyway, are there any questions on stitches that somebody wants to know while we're here? That's good.
I know you don't want to talk about that. Hold on. You went too fast. You moved too fast. I know you don't. Rapid ease.
Rapid ease, okay.
I have several of them. I teach a class in Houston, for Houston Community College, and I have a couple rapid ease that need parts put in, as well as that Sutton, the McKay.
Okay, Sutton McKay.
296.
296, okay. The rapid ease, again, about the same problem as the Landis, except the prices are like 300% higher on rapid ease parts. Rapid ease is the best stitches ever made, though. Usually the parts are very high quality. You don't usually have to replace that much, but it's like I say, besides them being expensive, we do have most of the parts, and usually you fix a rapid E, it doesn't use many parts. Sutton 296, again 296, and that one is 296. There's nothing available for it. Again, you can get a whirl pinion and a feed point, and that's it. About 3 parts available. And the Sutton 296 wasn't even made by Sutton. It was actually made by Peterson out of Denmark. And Sutton put their name on it, but Peterson was the same company who also made the Rapid E. But they discontinued both of those machines for many, many years.
Right.
So but they're really good stitchers. And if you have a shoe repair school in Houston?
Yeah, I teach shoe repair.
It's done. I like having your card. We're always looking
So would I.
place people that want to learn in this industry.
So would I.
Yes.
What are the shoe manufacturers doing for parts?
Well, again, shoe manufacturers are in a little different scenario because, again, the manufactured shoes are really changing. A lot of them are using a lot of molded soles. They go up the side and they're using these hand-cone machines, I think they're called, which will do sidewall stitching and go up on the bottom, and they're specialized machines that, don't go that well in shoe repair. I know, I'll give you for instance, one of my customers is White's Boots, and they do a lot of heavy boots. White's Boots has a lot of rapid eats in there that they use for them. But about 3 years ago, they went to England and bought what they call a British high-speed machine, which is, again, for a manufacturer. But with that, they also spent about $30,000 for a rebuilt machine. Had to fly somebody over to England to learn how to use it and set it up before it got sent to them. They got sent on their own. you know, but it's either that or factories are gonna go for very, you know, equipment that can run in $500,000 and up, or get automated equipment or specialized equipment built for them. You know, and that's the problem, is to find anything economical that a shooting guard can afford. There's nothing there. And look at how complicated the stitcher is. If somebody was to reduce it, it would sell for more than $50,000. Now it becomes a problem. How many stitches can you sell to shooters for $50,000? I know that answer. Almost none, maybe one. You know, guys are fool everywhere. But
That's why the press is becoming so important.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know, but you know, and so take care of your stitches. You know, oil them well, keep them clean. Because like I said,
And keep the parts.
now on your stitches, I'm going to probably give you one tip today that you can take home, and it's going to make this whole class worthwhile. Now, how many thread their machines and use knots and stuff? When you 3-thread stitch using a knot?
Yeah, Barbers is coming with knots in them.
Yeah, that's true too. Another problem besides not getting parts for stitches is poor thread. Quality of thread has changed too, which actually I should talk about that a little bit. Because I have more problems with people who use black thread and then all of a sudden have a problem. And I found that the dye in the thread makes a weaker thread than white. And a lot of times just putting a white spool of thread and the thing's stitch. Now, I mean, thread quality is not strong enough in the machine. There isn't any work that I can do that's going to, you know, make it better if the thread manufacturer's not producing quality thread. But in the thread industry, everybody is bought up by one company. I believe Coach just about owns it all now. So, you know, the quality of the thread just is not what Barbers used to be. Now, when you're going to thread your machine, you're going to have a piece of thread hanging down like this. And you're going to want to attach a new thread. A lot of people tie knots, things like that. It's too much work. All you do, untwist your wire. The most important thing is come up from the bottom a foot and a half. Do not do this down here. Come up a foot and a half, and then all you have to do is open your thread. Bring the new one through, again like a foot and a half, and pull it through your machine.
Put a little bit of oil on it too.
Well, oil always helps, but this is no knot, so it's going to go through the wax pot a lot easier. And I keep saying do it up a foot and a half because the difference is if you do it up this high, it's not going to unravel. If you do this right from the bottom of the thread, those few threads will unravel and you'll be pulling one piece out and the other stuck in the machine. Come up a foot and a half, and you don't need to put any knots or anything else. It'll pull through much easier. Yes?
How much do you shove through it? How much of it do you shove into it? Do you just flush it up or do you shove it up in there? When you untwist it?
Well, I'm coming, you know, a foot and a half down.
I got that.
I'm twisting it, and I'm taking about the same amount through on the other side. So, you know, I'm lacing it through again, you know, about a foot and a half, so I trace it down about the same amount.
Okay, so you're going to have about that much sticking out?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to leave at least a foot so it doesn't unravel. And that's really the, you know, the key way to do it. Okay. Needles. Again, we sell needles. It's important to know what needles you use in the machine. Too often I have customers that call and the problem is they're using the wrong needle. And it's usually because they told their finder salesman, I need a pack of McKay needles. Different McKays use different needles. So the guy hands you a pack of 33 McKay needles because that's probably the most popular one he sells. Well, if you got a lock stitch McKay using a 4002, you know, all these numbers that are in the beginning here are your style. 4002 is the style of a needle. You know, number 5 is my thickness. But you know, if you keep your packs, and when you go to order needles, don't say give me a pack of McKay needles, give me a pack of stitching needles. Tell me you want a number 4002, number 5, you want, you know, or if you're using a 77, you're using the 33s. Well, if you're using the 77 McKay, you're using the 33 needles for the 4019, 33s. And, you know, it will assure that you have the right needle. Because if you just assume they're giving you the right thing, you can just wind up with trouble before you realize it. So check your needles, keep the packs that you're using. Even the Landis needles, you have different thicknesses. Most commonly, people use 50s. Some are using 47s, but you've got to give them this information to what thickness and what needle you want. Sometimes I call and I ask people, give me the pack number, and then I'll go, you used the wrong one. That explains it all. So that's with your needles. 77 changed just for Ks, again, getting really old. Most of these changes for Ks are now, 50, 60, 70 years old. Again, they're also getting very, very hard to get parts for. The horn tips and caps on 77, which I use. This is one of the parts that I have problems getting is horn tip and cap on them anymore. There's only one person in the country who has any horn tips and caps left. I'm going to leave him nameless and I won't do business with him. But a horn tip and cap, if you buy it from him, is going to cost you over $500. And then again, most of the ones he's making, they're still no good. Problem is, if you take a look at your old 77 horn cap, you see this indentation here. This is where your pinion shaft comes up in there, and it spins in there. And a lot of them are not cut deep enough. If you look at the old ones, this thing is going to be almost up to the hole. Some of them are cut way back. And what happens when you go put them on is binding the pinions on. When I had to use him, I actually had to take brand new parts and grind this out more. Because just the way they are coming out of the factory, it's not good. It's not deep enough. So, these are problems. When you get new parts, take the time to inspect them, make sure they seem right. If they start to bind up, it's an indication it's better. Huh? Well, I'd like to thank you.
Are all the printouts and brochures you have up front, are they all on your website?
Yeah, I think everything except for the idler wheel is not on my website yet. And maybe the 5-in-1 is, 77 is. We're building that section of our website a little bit more and more. We're trying to put up, help boxes and certain things for more common stuff. So we're still improving that section. Yes.
Although all this technology is 50, 100 years old, is there anything new coming out that?
Okay. Well, do you want to know what the future is, repairs?
Yeah.
Sure. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to amaze you or scare you. Huh? Well, I can tell you right now, the future of shoe machines are going to be very technologically advanced. I had just went over to the Beach Body Show, and then I was over in Holland about 3 weeks ago, too, over visiting with Joe's America, who is one of the biggest producers of equipment in the world, very, very best in the world. Their equipment, what they tell me, the technology they're working on now, is they're integrating them with computer systems. Honestly, in 5 years, the computer, when your machine is malfunctioning, it's going to send a message to the manufacturer. It's going to tell us when your filters need to be changed, when your motors are overheating, and when you have a problem. The next level, we're not there yet, the next level, they're even talking about having touch tone panels on the machine, so that if you need a couple sanding belts or any parts for your machine, you'll be able to just touch a button on your machine, and it's going to send you parts to the manufacturer. That's what's coming. What they have today, and what's already there today, which is very, very unique, is the machines are made, number one, with complete sensors on them. They're using sensors that when you step in front of your grinder, your vacuum is going to open up, your sander is going to turn on. They use central vacs that will monitor it and regulate the exact amount of control of exhaust for that suction. If you move over to another wheel, 4-second delay. That one shuts off, this one opens up. This way, if you have 8 people working on it, their central vacs will raise the RPMs to accommodate 8 open holes. If there's one, there's one. It's also saving a lot of electricity by being able to monitor it itself and run at the right amount of speed for work that's being done. So they started with sensor control, that's already there. Then they figured there's a lot of busy shops that have more than one worker working on a machine. People are all different heights. Some are short, some are tall. So now they have buttons on it, you can raise and lower the machine, just touch the button. Up, down, make it perfect working height. Time to clean up the end of the day, you got a little door on the bottom of your machine, you open it up, you sweep it over to the lid, the machine sucks it in, you don't even bend over and pick up the dirt anymore. The equipment is extremely, it's extremely economical as far as saving you in electricity and other costs which you do there. Big important thing too is health. People are working on a lot of dirty machines. You're taking in a lot of chemicals, a lot of dust. None of this is good for your health. These machines are almost completely dustless. Another thing they put on is where you have your sanding wheel, they are using air technology now and throwing an air shield over the wheel so that you can run EVA all day long and not have a speck on your hands. Their sensor backs are self-cleaning. 3 times a day, it's going to vibrate and clean itself out. So, I mean, the technology is really there, but make sure you come to Philadelphia next year. We're going to showcase it for the first time next year. I'm going to show you stuff that's going to blow you away. So make sure you sign up for next year because that's going to be my show of all shows. Guaranteed.
What's the cost of the workshop?
Just the cost.
Cost. Well, Joe's America is what they call it's a workshop solution. Everything they do, they cost to build, taking in all consideration of everything you need. It's also a white glove service. Joe's America typical finishes can run $60,000 to $100,000, but they're going to come into your shop, they're going to measure out your shop, they're going to value what you need. You're going to build the machine exactly. You want 2 wheels, you want 3 wheels, you want 4 wheels, you want carbide wheels, you want rotating trimmers. There's so many options to build the perfect solution for you. You want glue tables built in, you want heating lamps built in, you want jacks built in. Anything is possible. So like I say, what you're doing is you're getting a perfect workshop solution that is completely efficient and clean. And clean is really, really important. I mean, if you put a price on your health, what's it worth? But the new equipment is the type of stuff you're going to put in is going to last for decades, and you'll be saving a lot more money by being a lot more efficient, and hopefully you're going to get a few more years out of your life because you chose that equipment. Any other questions? I'd like to thank you all for coming to my seminar.